will be recorded. And I want to introduce Tricia Tetz. She is a recreation therapist as well as a behavioral consultant. And she's going to be providing us with our session this afternoon. And I'm excited to hear your next session. Last week was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to this week. Tricia, I'll pass it on to you.
Well, hello, and thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here again. So today we're going to be talking about dementia and the skills and abilities that we lose as dementia progresses and skills that we still retain as dementia progresses. So when someone says the word dementia, what is usually the description that comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's memory loss. It's being forgetful. It's what we see on television. But that's really not a comprehensive description of dementia. Dementia is better classified as a combination of symptoms. And this tends to get glanced over a lot, or we forget that it's a whole bunch of symptoms. It's changes in behavior and it's changes in people's abilities. So there are several truths that we need to acknowledge when it comes to dementia and a person's change in abilities. The first one, and I'm sorry if you saw last week's, and this is a bit of a repeat, but it's important to know, and repetition is good for the memory. So 2 or more parts of the brain are dying at any given time. Number 2, it's progressive. It will get worse over time. 3, it's chronic. It cannot be fixed. There's currently no cure that we have for dementia. And 4, and this one was very impactful for me the first time I heard it, is that dementia is terminal. Sometimes we forget that. We think it's a disease that just sort of goes and goes and goes, and then the person passes. But people actually pass from dementia, from the loss of skills and the loss of abilities, the way their brain just continues to die. When it comes to abilities, we need to remember that the left side of the brain is usually affected more quickly and more devastatingly than the right. This is really important to know because the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain are responsible for different skill sets. The left side of our brain, this is sort of our logical side. The right side of our brain is our rhythm side. So the left side of the brain is responsible for logic, being able to rationalize. It's responsible for speech, language, and comprehension. It actually has the motor control of the right side of the body. So that's very interesting if you think about skills and physical abilities. Analysis and calculations, timing and sequencing, as well as the recognition of words, letters, and numbers. And that's all done in the left side. Now, on the right side of the brain, this is our rhythm side. This is our emotional side. The right side of the body is responsible for things like music, poetry, and prayer. This is a gift. These often stay with us almost right up to the very, very end of this disease. So we can still reach the person using these things. It's a gift. The right side controls the motor side of the left side of the body. So they're kind of like an X there. It's in control of creativity, our spatial abilities, context and perception, as well as the recognition of faces, places, and objects. Another thing it's important to know when it comes to the abilities of dementia, that dementia is both chemical and structural. So it's structural because brain cells are shrinking. We can see in the first diagram here how the brain, the physical part of the brain, because the brain cells are dying, they're shrinking, they're pulling away, actually changes. By the end of this disease, someone's brain will actually be 1/3 of the size it was in the beginning. And if we could see that physically, we would not expect someone who has, the brain size that's 1/3 to be functioning the same way as someone who has, their fully functioning brain. But unfortunately, it's a very internal process, so we can't physically see it as well. So it's physical because you have the cells here and they're shrinking and they're dying and they're pulling away. And then it's chemical because there's a fluid that goes between these two cells. That fluid, as dementia happens, as dementia progresses, it actually will change chemically, as well as when you have fluid and it has further to go, it might hit where it's supposed to, or it might go way past here and hit a different cell and give a different message. So if the wrong cell is getting that message, you're not going to have the same abilities as you had in the beginning. So, because it's structural and chemical, dementia is fluid. So, a person who's living with dementia could be like bang spot on, right on the money one day, and have a really good day. And then the next day, there's less. And, that fluid's going to the wrong place and they have a really, really bad day. But maybe they have a really bad moment and an hour later, they're doing really well. This unfortunately causes people to think that sometimes someone is faking or attention seeking or they're doing it on purpose. But that's not the case. Dementia is fluid. So abilities come and go over time. And it's important, really important to remember that. We want to appreciate the good days and respect the harder ones as well. So now that we understand why abilities change, we're going to look at some of the actual abilities that we see changing and how they can affect everyday lives. So we're going to see abilities such as changes in your visual and spatial perception. So this can be something like recognizing people or places. This can be really, really challenging for families. And I remember years ago, there was a gentleman and he was at our adult day support program. And the next one day, his son called up, and there had been a big issue the night before. His dad called him in an absolute panic. He was really upset. And he was telling his son he had to come over right now because there is a very, very bossy woman in his house. That woman is telling him what to do, what to eat, where to go, and he's had enough. And the son goes, "But dad, that's just mom." And the gentleman goes, "Oh, no, it's not. I married a curvaceous blonde. This is a short, fat old lady." And where the story is kind of adorable, the reality of the situation isn't. So this man legitimately didn't recognize his wife of 50 or more years. And can you imagine the panic of a stranger trying to crawl into bed with you? That fear, that anger, that frustration for him is very real and a very legitimate emotion. Or think about driving. What if you're headed to your daughter's house and you know where she lives? You've driven there for the last 20, 25 years, and suddenly you can't find it because you no longer recognize the areas around you. So going to the store now is suddenly an impossible task. And that puts a huge extra burden on the caregivers. Because for me, I know that when I'm cooking dinner and I don't have an ingredient that I thought was on hand, it's a lifesaver for me to be able to send someone to the store. Can you run and grab chicken broth, for example, and have them go and I can keep doing it. But if you are the caregiver for someone who's living with dementia and they can't run to the store for you and you have to take them with you or risk leaving them at home and where they can cause problems, that makes life a whole lot harder. Um, Another thing is you might no longer recognize an object. So you might, so for example, money. You might not recognize that this is a coin and that you can spend this, especially if in your day they were dollar bills. So you're not going to know how to spend money. Or recognize the difference between money. You might overpay or short somebody and think they're trying to steal from you when they're saying, "No, no, you owe me another dollar." It's very, very challenging for people. You might have difficulty walking up and down the stairs because you're misjudging the height of the stairs or the distance between them. These difficulties with perception, you can find it more and more difficult to concentrate, and your attention span might become shorter. Aspects of your surroundings, like noise and crowds, might start to become more overwhelming and cause a lot of stress for that person. There are some strategies to manage some of these changes. The first is you want to pick activities that can be managed now. If they're no longer able to go to church because it's a large group and that causes a lot of stress, maybe watching a church on television or going during the week when the services are a lot less crowded. Making sure they have the opportunity to take breaks and to take a rest. That's really important. They need to sort of calm themselves down from that stress. Listening to talking books and CDs, watching DVDs, you have to be careful what they watch because when your visual spatial perception changes, when you have dementia, you can actually go from seeing things in 3D to seeing things in 2D. So that's like if you're watching a television screen. So if they're watching a movie that has a lot of violence or horror in it or scary, or if there's gunshots, they might think that those gunshots are actually happening because they see the television now the same as they see everything else because they might no longer be seeing in 3D. Then we have the way communication changes. Word finding abilities is one of the things that definitely changes very early on in dementia. And again, this is because language is stored in the left side of the brain. And when it becomes more damaged, it makes finding the right word harder and harder. So it makes communication even more challenging than it is. Forgetting a word and remembering it in a moment. That's okay. That's normal aging. We don't need to worry about that. Not being able to recall a word at all, or having something that we call word salad, substituting words that pop into our head for other words that we want. So someone with dementia might be like, "Hey, can you hand me the faddle?" And you're kind of, "Look, the faddle?" You're looking around, "Just, can you hand it to me? The faddle, it's right beside you." And you're like, "I don't know. Like, no, the faddle, give me the, do you even speak English? Can you not understand me?" And they get really angry because they know the word they want, but they can't get that word out. So that makes it very challenging for them. And then comprehension has been changing as dementia progresses. Comprehending words that other people are saying is really hard. Making decisions can be very challenging. We so often rely solely on the words that are coming out of someone's mouth, but communication actually requires less words and more appropriate body language. So when we're communicating with someone with dementia, we want to start with body language. 55% of communication is body language. The right side of your brain is in charge of reading body language. So you're still going to, even if you don't get the words, you're going to get that body language message. And remember, the right side of the brain is affected second and less devastatingly than the left. So the skill of reading body language is something they can retain, even if they have lost a portion of their verbal skills and their comprehension skills. As we read body language, which is the biggest part of communicating, vision is obviously incredibly important. And it's part of the reason we need to acknowledge the vision changes that come along with dementia. So switching from 3D to 2D, or your peripheral vision. When you're young, you can see almost completely out, right? Just using your peripheral vision. When you have dementia, your peripheral vision begins to change and you become what we have scuba vision. So you're not able to see as much around you. As it changes, they're going to have binocular vision, which means they can do a task or they can be social. They can't do two things at once. They can't focus. And as it changes even more, you're going to have monocular vision where you're really only seeing a very, very small part of the world around you. So when you're communicating with someone, knowing the vision changes that have happened, their word comprehension changes, what skills they retain, what skills they've lost is incredibly important. 33% of communication is tone and pitch, also processed by the right side more than the left. We can follow the rhythm of speech, even if we can't follow the exact words. And we can maintain the ability for plain social chit chat, something we've done our whole lives, even if we can't have a more meaningful conversation. Then 7% of communication are the actual words we use, and comprehension is still a left brain. So use less words and more actions when you're communicating. They're going to be missing 1 in 4 words that you're saying as the disease kind of hits that mid stage. So if someone's talking and you're missing every fourth word, what if that fourth word is the context word? They're not going to catch anything that you've said. This is really important. And then they might no longer be hearing consonants. Not only that, but I mean, no longer be hearing a consonant. So now I've had people say, if you want to hear what they're hearing, you just take your tongue, put it on the roof of your mouth and speak. That sort of mimics not hearing consonants. So it's very muffled, very jumbled. I have had people say, oh, these hearing aids aren't working at all. I don't know why. And they're playing with them. We've got them checked. The hearing aids are perfectly fine. It's the way their brain is now processing what they're hearing. Um, so this causes people to compensate. They'll nod and they'll smile and they'll go along with conversations. They'll pick up your rhythm of your speech, but they're missing the context. So this can be a really big issue when you're trying to get someone dressed or go to the bathroom and they're smiling and they're nodding and they're agreeing and they're going with you because they can tell, you want them to follow. And then all of a sudden you're in the bedroom and you're taking their clothes off and they're going to start fighting you because that's not what they agreed to, even if they nodded and smiled to what you were saying. They're following your rhythm. They have slower processing times. You need to give them time to process what you've said and then to respond. So if you ask someone, hi, how are you doing today? That was 7 seconds. It felt like an eternity for me when I'm waiting for someone to respond, but they might need that 7 to 10 seconds to process what you've said, to formulate their response, and then to have the response come out. So give them that extra time. It's really important. They might resort to using simpler language, single phrases to describe something hot instead of saying, oh, the hot chocolate is very hot or the soup is very hot. They'll just say hot. And you're like, yes, the soup is very hot. They could have problems making their needs known verbally. What they're saying, it's not coming out the same. They need that extra time. Another skill is forgetting small or recent details, changes in how you're remembering things. So they could have difficulty processing, storing, and retrieving information. This is really more classic Alzheimer's, but can be true with all dementias. People can retain past information. They can describe the detail of the buttons on their wedding dress, but they can't tell you when they ate last. They can't remember that. Or if they've had lunch 20 minutes ago, they're saying they're hungry and you try to tell them, oh no, you had lunch, you're good. And they think you're trying to starve them because they cannot remember that they have had lunch. So a person who's living with dementia forgets these kinds of details, and we have to be careful about what they're doing, like cooking, because this is when they can leave a pot on the burner and forget about it. Fires can be started. It's never ever intentional, but remembering details is no longer a skill or an ability that they have. They can get lost. They can physically get lost. Um, it's being on the highway and suddenly not knowing what exit to take, even though you've driven that a million times. Or it's being at the mall and looking around and you're scared because you don't know how you got there. Someone brought you to the mall and they literally just dropped you off. And how are you going to get home? And that fear, that anxiety builds up and up and up. And that can be very, very scary. It could be getting lost in place or time. It could be looking around my house thinking, where am I? Like, why am I here? Because in my mind, I'm 26 years old and this is not where I lived when I was 26 years old, raising my small children. We need to remember that different abilities are different at different points of the day. So, sundown syndrome is a very good example of this. A lot of times, evenings are particularly hard. So, say I'm in my house and my daughter's there, and I'm looking at her. And I'm like, who are you? And she's like, Mom, you know who I am. I'm your daughter. But I really, really don't, because I'm 26 years old. And why would someone who's 60 years old be in my house telling me that they're my daughter? Because, yeah, I have a daughter, but she's like 4 years old. She's not 60 years old. So it gets very challenging when people are forgetting the people in their lives and where they are, different syndromes, like sundowning syndromes as well. Different points of the day, different people will function better or worse. We don't exactly know what it's going to be for each person, and it can vary from day to day. But if you do notice that someone has a particularly hard time, say when they first wake up, or in the evening when you're trying to get them kind of settled and to go down to bed, then you can plan for that the next day. Remember that dementia is fluid, so these abilities are going to be coming and going. Now we have the lack of social awareness and what we call socially inappropriate behavior. It's most likely going to happen at some point in the disease, and there are actual physical brain changes that will tell us why this is happening. Remember that rhythm is on your right. This is really important to remember. Things including that music, that poetry, that prayer, and this is a gift. We want to use it as much as we can possibly. However, the right side of our brain also holds things like all of the forbidden words that we've ever learned. This includes swears, racial slurs, ugly words like fatso and idiot, and our sexuality. So it is really common for me to hear something along the lines of, "Oh, my mom would never have said a bad word her entire I didn't even know she knew those kinds of words that are coming out of her mouth. Like, this is not my mom. Like, where is this coming from? This just isn't her. She's suddenly insulting people and calling them these awful names. And I don't get it. Where is it coming from?" What happens is when we're little and we hear a bad word on the playground, say, and we go running home and we're like, "Yes, mom, mom, I heard this word. Guess which word it was? It's beep." And what was the reaction that you probably got from your mom or your dad when you said, the F word for the first time or something really inappropriate? Chances are that you got yelled at, maybe you got smacked, maybe you got your mouth rinsed out with soap. So, what we say to ourselves is, that word got a reaction. I need to remember that word, but I'm not going to remember it in the left side of my brain where I store all my other language, because this is a reaction word. This is an emotion word. So, I'm going to store it over here on the right side of my brain. And I'm going to tuck it away for times where I might want to use it, or tuck it away so I'll never use it again. It's not a communicative word, so it's an emotional word. It goes on the right side. Now, when the right side of the brain, we're working primarily out of the right side of the brain, the left side, our logic is gone, our filter is gone. We suddenly are going to say things or do things that we would have never said or done before, because there's no logic and no filter left to prevent you. And you're living out of the right side of your brain more. Um, so it's important to know that. And sexuality, don't forget, that's over there too. And it's a strong, strong part of our life, but it's not something that usually comes out on a daily basis. We hide our crushes. We often don't do big public displays of affection. At the very least, it's private, if not maybe viewed as completely taboo to even talk about. Particularly for an older generation, that was not something you discussed ever. So all that's tucked in the right side of your brain. Remember, the left side of the brain is attacked first and more devastatingly. So when a person living with dementia, as the disease progresses, they're living out of the right side. So suddenly, mom is swearing or calling people names. She's not able to stop. Even if she, apologizes, and even if she acknowledges that it was wrong, she's not able to actually follow through on her promise to never do it again. So mom hasn't changed, but her brain is working differently. It's forcing her to work out of that right side of the brain. So, true story for me again. I was working with a woman and she was really upset when I was talking with her on the phone. She was crying and she's like, I don't understand it. My husband was such a good man. He was involved in our church, he was very responsible, he was incredibly respected. And now suddenly people are coming in, caregivers to help her, home care. And her husband would go up to the ladies that would come in. And he's like, hey, do you want to see my penis? And she was mortified. She couldn't understand why her husband was now acting this way. And so I was able to explain to her the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain, the logic, the filter is gone, and that it's not the secret part of his personality that's now coming out. It's it's all the things that he would have put away so he wouldn't have done before. So she felt very relieved just understanding why, because she shared a lot of people that this was happening, but no one was able to explain to her why. And sometimes just knowing why is going to give us that, okay, he's not a bad person, I can still love him, especially if it's your spouse. So when I started in this field like 25 years ago, they used to say when people get dementia, their true personality comes out, but we now know that's not true. We understand now that certain parts of the brain die. It changes how we think. So it changes what we say and it changes how we act. It's not an extension of who we are. It's literally the part of our brain that knows right from wrong is no longer working properly, so they cannot stop themselves. Very important to know. Getting upset with somebody when they're doing this will only make things worse. You want to work off of emotion. Mom, when you say those things to my friends, it makes me feel really bad. It makes me feel very embarrassed. People aren't going to remember the words you say, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. So share your emotions. Don't just say, Mom, that's inappropriate. I told you not to say that. Don't get mad. Don't get stressed. Just work off of emotion. Another skill that's lost is difficulty in planning, initiating. So that's getting started, organizing, and making decisions. This one gets missed out, maybe even the most, because we just think, oh, God, they're getting lazy, or they can do it. I know they can do it. They've always done it. It's not that hard. So we want to remember that this is something that's actually changed. I'm sorry, my screen is jumping all over the place. So the person who's living with dementia will stop doing things that once gave their life meaning, that once gave them a reason to get up in the morning. So if I have dementia, I'm not doing things that I used to love to do. I'll talk about doing them, but I won't actually do them anymore. So let's say I was really active in a volunteer group, and this is, what gave my life meaning. This is what I lived for, was being a part of this group. And now suddenly I'm refusing. I'm like, no, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm done. I've given them so much of my time and so much of my life that somebody else can do it. Someone else can take it over. I'm done. I'm not going anymore. And you're kind of shocked because this was always something they loved so much. Or something like, I'm not going to go to church this Sunday. I'll go another time, next week, another day. Yeah, no, I can't do that. And because they're no longer able to take a thought and put it into an action. So the thought of going to church to the action of actually going to church, getting up, getting ready, getting dressed, driving there is just too challenging. So they just stop doing it. It's really important. Um, no, things are very overwhelming. You can no longer do two things at once. So that again, a lot of times comes to the binocular vision that people have, to the fact that they can be social, they can make eye contact and talk with you, or they can look down and do a craft or eat a meal. They can't do both because they can only focus on one thing. Um, it's yeah, it's quite amazing when you watch people try to multitask when they have dementia, and it gets very, very difficult for them. Decision making and planning, or yeah, becoming overwhelmed, and people won't start things. So when you become overwhelmed, you think, okay, I'm going to clean that up. I'm going to get into that room. I'm going to clean it all up. It's going to be done. But I don't actually ever go into that room to clean it up. So you go into that room, say it's my bedroom, and you're like, what happened in here? What tornado landed in here? My mom is clean. She is organized. Like, what the heck is going on here? And I come in and I'm like, oh, I was going to put all of that away. Just leave it, don't touch it. I'm going to put it away. And you're like, no, you weren't, mom. You're not doing that anymore. Your whole house is a mess. And I'm like, no, I was just sorting it first to organize it, but you are not going to touch it. You just leave it. I don't want you touching it because I'm going to do that. But they're just not able to take that I'm going to do that and put it into action. So sorry, I had missed something here. You can't do two things at once. And then decision making, planning, that's a big one. Planning for the future is hard enough. Planning for the future, the distant future, when you have dementia, is absolutely impossible. For example, writing a will or your goals of care. This is hard to comprehend. A simple thing like having a shared decision maker can alleviate so much stress for families as well as the person who's living with dementia. Making long term plans is very impossible when you have dementia, particularly if they don't realize they're having an issue and they're trying to hide it from you. Having the ability to make decisions, that's something that disappears as dementia progresses. So we don't want to make people answer open-ended questions to make a decision. Do you want something to drink? Do I want something to drink? I don't know. What do you want to drink? I don't well, what do I like to drink? And so you want to give them that guided option. Do you want something hot to drink or something cold to drink? Something hot? Do you want tea or coffee? Making a decision is very, very challenging when you have dementia. So make sure you give them guided options. When we don't, they actually become stressed, and then the brain floods with cortisol, and increasing cortisol, which is a stress hormone into the brain, causes them even more anxiety and even more stress and the less of an ability to even make a decision. So we want to make sure that we are working with that person and not causing them that extra stress. Then we have physical abilities and body functions that change. And body functions begin to change, they begin to disappear. So aging is interesting. The progression of dementia is interesting. The progression of dementia, the brain actually regresses in a similar way that a baby's brain progresses. So they are going to lose abilities that children gain. Um, it's important though, because we never ever look at a child and say, they can't even change their own diaper. What good are they? No, we look at what they can do. So we want to do the same for our loved ones who are living with dementia. How we walk changes. Might switch to a shuffling gait. This increases our overall risk of falls, breaking bones, particularly hips. We never want someone to break a hip. There's trouble coordinating our muscles to do the things that we used to do, like getting out of bed. A lot of falls are caused by when someone's getting out to bed. They don't have the same muscle coordination, or simply standing up from a chair. Our sleep, our ability to fall asleep, our quality of sleep has changed. Days and nights can get reversed. Next Friday, the entire topic is on sleeping and sleep issues for people who are living with dementia. It's hard, particularly for caregivers, if they're being awake all day, and then their person who's living with dementia, their loved one, is up all night and they're worried about their safety, they're not going to get a quality of sleep either. So it's very important to understand that that's a physical change that happens in their brain is how we sleep. Also, the ability to eat, chew, swallow, this will deteriorate over time. And this increase the risks of things like choking and getting, pneumonia caused by choking. So it's important that we're aware of how that is affected by dementia. Toileting is a huge one. And this is a skill that's lost, and it can be so challenging, both for the person who's living with dementia and for the caregivers. I mean, why don't they make it to the bathrooms, half the time? They can half the time. Why aren't they doing it the other half? So, in some cases, the body has actually forgotten how to recognize the signals that our bladder or bowels are sending to our brain to let us know that we have to go to the bathroom. Or we receive the signals, but we just can't get up and get to the bathroom fast enough because, that shuffling gait, the inability to stand up as quickly as we used to. Or maybe I get lost in place and time and I get lost on the way to the bathroom. With the house I grew up in, the bathroom was first door on the left, and now suddenly there's a closet there. I don't know where to go to the bathroom. So I end up going to the bathroom in the closet. And you're like, why? Why would you even? But that's just how their mind worked. And it makes sense if you were able to follow along inside of their mind. Or they don't recognize the toilet. A lot of our residents or people living with dementia grew up not with flushing toilets. They grew up with outhouses. So if they're reverting back to their, young adult years or childhood years and they're looking for an outhouse, they might be trying to get outside. Or they might see a garbage can and use the garbage can because it's round. It kind of has that whole shape to go to the bathroom in it. A lot of times people get very upset when residents are using the garbage can as a bathroom. And I'm like, well, at least it's not the corner of the floor. Like, at least they're trying to get somewhere where they can go. And then embarrassment is another big issue when they do have an accident. So maybe they're in the bathroom and they just don't have the dexterity to get their clothes down anymore. And then they're embarrassed because that's something nobody would like to ever admit is that they had an accident and that they, peed or they pooped in their pants. That's a child thing. I'm an adult. I would never do that. So I'm embarrassed. So I'm going to hide them. I'm surrounded by people right now, so I'm just going to take them off and I'm just going to tuck them under here for now, under their pillow, and I'm going to wash them later when nobody's around so that no one will know. Well, later comes and they've forgotten they've put them under there because they have dementia. And so you go into their room and you're like, why does it smell in here? It's horrible. And they've lost their sense of smell because, again, dementia, it's another sense that we lose very early on. They're like, it doesn't smell in here. What are you talking about? And you're like, it is disgusting. And then you take the pillow and you're like, why would you put that dirty underwear under your pillow? Now I have to change your bed. And that person's like, I didn't do that. Someone else must have come in here and did that because I know better than that. And I would never have an accident. So embarrassment, and then the inability to recall details that it was them that put it in. Very interesting. Perceptions change when we understand what's going on for someone with dementia. A couple of other issues on top of just the regular dementia and toileting. There could be UTIs, there could be constipation, there could be prostate issues, there could be medication side effects. And also remember that toileting issues can be embarrassing to talk about. So if someone goes to the doctor, they might not mention that they're having, a lot of constipation or they're having accidents or they're having fecal incontinence because they're embarrassed to even talk about it to their doctor. So, even if they've noticed they're having them, they're not going to mention it at all. Then we have our fine motor skills, and we often take things like fine motor skills for granted. So on our finger, we have strength fingers, it's these three fingers, and we have skill fingers, these two. So even a very fragile person with dementia, if we're holding them, they lose the skill, but they keep the strength. So they can cause a lot of damage. If they grab onto your hand and you can't get them to let go for $1 million, they have that strength still left in them. But the ability to, pick up something, the skill fingers to pick something up, that leaves us very early on. So things like the ability to button your shirt, to hold a measuring cup, to pick up a fork, to pick up the salt. So just for the rest of the day, as you go about your day, every time you use your skill fingers, just make a note of it and just think this is something that someone who has dementia would struggle with. This is an ability they are losing. When you use these three fingers, your strength fingers, for the rest of the day, think to yourself, this is an ability they still retain. They can still use the strength. They still have that grip. So you know what they actually can still do. So this causes tasks when you lose your skill fingers, like, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, washing your face, having a shower, makes it much more difficult. Plus, then you add in the whole issue with initiating and sequencing, and it's literally a recipe for disaster. So we have to find ways for people who are living with dementia to do activities that don't require the same level of skill as they once had. So for example, someone who used to paint maybe now uses pencil crayons and an adult coloring books, or they make cards, or we encourage them more abstract painting, or maybe they take an art class that's specifically designed for a person living with dementia. I know a lot of farmers who are asked to polish old saddles or clean old horseshoes or sort seeds. As people, we are programmed to want to do meaningful activity. That's how we fill out our day. And it's important. We have to remember that when someone says, I'm bored, I need something to do, if they're just sitting there, they need meaningful activity. So you alter the activity to match their skill level that they still have. Remember, the end result doesn't matter. If the bread doesn't turn out, that doesn't matter. It was the process of her measuring the ingredients and kneading that bread. That was really important. Focus on the time spent doing the activity, not on the end result. People lose abilities when they have dementia, but it doesn't mean they can't have a really good quality of life. So, by focusing on what a person can do rather than what they can no longer do, that's how we can give them that good quality of life, that they can still live their best life. For a person who's living with dementia, don't forget their brain degresses the same way a child's progresses, but we never look at a child and say, look what they can't do. So we want to do the same for the people that we love that are living with dementia. We want to look at them and say, this is something they can do. And so we can still do that activity with them. They also lose the ability to learn new skills. So learning gets harder and harder as we get older. Our brain is actually at its prime when we're 25 years old. After that, it starts to go down very, very slowly. Never get into a memory competition with someone who's 25 years old, because I guarantee you'll lose. That is natural aging. So natural aging is something like, ring, ring, ring. Oh, hi, Mary. Yeah, no, I'm good. How are you? Oh, yeah, I'd love to have lunch today. Where? McBee's. Where's Macbee's? Oh, where Smitty's used to be? Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot that Smitty's had closed down. Yeah. So McBee's is the new cafe that's just opened up. I hope their pastrami sandwiches are as good as I've heard. And I know you, I'll bet you $100 that you are going to order the white stuff with the mayonnaise. Oh yeah, the egg salad. Yeah, that's what I meant. You love egg salad. All right, see you at 1. Normal aging, don't worry, where you forget little details, but once you're reminded, you're remembered of them. That's completely normal. Or having to describe something before the word pops into your head, the white stuff with the mayonnaise on the bread. Oh yes, egg salad. Yeah, I remember now. Very normal aging. So think of your brain as a bunch of filing cabinets. So when you're 25 years old, you only have 25 years of information to store in those filing cabinets. When you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old or 100 years old, you have a lot more information that you've gathered over your life to fill up all those filing cabinets. So when you go to look for a word, your brain has to go through a lot more files. It takes you just a few more seconds to find the word or the thought that you're looking for. When you have dementia, though, there's no path to the filing cabinets. You're not going to be able to find them. So not normal aging is something like this. So ring, ring, ring. Hi. Oh, hi, Mary. How are you? Yeah, no, I'd love to have lunch today. Where? McBee's. Where is that? Where Smitty's used to be? When did Smitty's close? I was just there last week. No, they could not have closed 2 years ago. I'm telling you, I was there last week. Yeah, well, whatever. I will just meet you at Smitty's, okay? Yeah, no, I'll just meet you. I'll meet you there. Nope, it's good. Yeah, if I'm late, can you order me the Reuben sandwich? I love pastrami. And yeah, if you're late, I'll probably order you the the white stuff with on the bread with the comes from the chickens, and we boil them. I know it's egg salad. I was gonna say that if you had just given me a minute. Yeah, fine. Okay. Yep, I got it. I'll see you at 1. Click. So anger is a natural go-to because you can't find the word and they're looking for the word, that word of egg salad. But the person on the other end finally breaks down and gives them the word. And then I feel stupid because I can't remember that word. And so I get a little bit aggressive. I kind of attack a little bit, like, yeah, fine, I'll meet you there. That is not normal aging. So normal aging, forgetting and then it pops back into your head, not normal aging, and then forgetting and not being able to recall no matter what. Like I could not recall that Smitty's had closed 2 years ago. In my mind, I was just there and had pancakes last week. Doing things and then forgetting we've done them with absolutely no recall whatsoever, even when prompted. Doing things and then denying that we've done them is another one. So calling, my accountant and telling him to do all these really weird things, and then me saying, I did not tell him to do any of that. That's completely wrong. I never did that. Taking money, moving it around, and then saying somebody stole the money because I don't remember moving it around. Trusting people I wouldn't normally trust. The loss of being able to tell the difference between a scam or something legitimate. So I'm sending money halfway across the world to a prince who's going to give me 10% of $17 million. We need to be careful of that. We lose that ability. And we lose the ability to learn new skills. Sorry. One of the skills that we're not able to do is to learn new bits of information. Learning things, everyone can learn things at any age. As we get older, it does get a little bit harder. That's why it's a big deal for someone who's in their 40s to go to university versus someone in their 20s, because we have more in our filing cabinet. So it's just a little bit harder. Take online banking, for example. Everything is switching to online. So someone who has dementia, they are going to fight this change because they can't learn it. So they're going to be like, I don't know why I have to do it this way. I've never, ever I don't want a bank card. I've never had a bank card. There's nothing wrong with the way we've been doing it for the last 85 years. I'm just going to keep doing it that way. And you're like, no, you need a bank card even to go into the bank. And they're like, nope, I'm not doing it, because they're not able to learn that information, and they're not able to transition from learning information to retaining information. So Teepa Snow, she has a model called the gemstone model. And the gemstone model is where Teepa Snow has taken an analogy using gems to put towards people with dementia, because every gem is useful and unique and it's beautiful. Gemstones are actually beautiful because of their flaws, not in spite of their flaws. So the first gem is a sapphire, and sapphire is your true blue. It is your brain. Your brain is healthy. This is me. This is you. This is everybody. So with True Blue, I can describe what I'm thinking so you can understand. I might talk to myself because I'm giving myself little prompts and cues. I can learn new things and I can change my habits. Even if it takes a little bit of time, that's okay. Normal aging, things like hearing, vision, balance, coordination, depression, anxiety, pain, or medication may impact my behavior a little bit, but my cognitive abilities stay the same. This is everyone, all of us here. Then we have the diamond. And the diamond is sort of the first stage in dementia. So with a diamond, overall, my cognition is clear. When I'm happy and supported, I'm capable and I shine bright. When I'm distressed, I can be cutting and rigid, and I might see you as a threat. I have trouble seeing other points of views, and I might become less aware of boundaries or more possessive about my relationships, my personal space, and my belongings. I have many facets, so people might see me differently at this stage, depending on the situation. This can cause conflicts among my family, among my friends, or my care team, because it's hard to tell if I'm choosing my behavior or if I truly have limits in my abilities. I can socially engage and I have really good cover skills. People will vary in their awareness of what's happening to me. I want to keep habits and environments as they've always been, even if they become problematic to me. I'm often focused in the past, personal values, or my finances. I will need help to make changes in my life because it's very hard for me. Interesting thing here is you can actually become a diamond state even if you don't have dementia. If you get into a very stressful situation and your brain floods with the stress hormone cortisol, you might start acting like a diamond. You might get rigid. You might get really focused. You might be unable to see someone else's point of view. So it's very interesting. Just think next time you're incredibly stressed and you sort of have that anxiety, just thinks that's what someone who's in the first stages of dementia might be feeling at any given moment. So skills of a diamond. I like things that are familiar and I dislike change. So don't go in and change all the cupboards around. That's going to be really, really difficult for them. I'm going to live by habits and my routines, good, bad, or ugly. Those are the things I'm going to stick to. I'm going to blame errors on others. I didn't do that. You must have done that. Or I'm going to dismiss them completely. No, that didn't happen. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Then there's the vision changes. So they're kind of going into scuba vision at the first stage of dementia. It's already changing. There's going to be word finding problems. There's going to be misspeaking when stressed. They're going to become repetitious. They're going to become repetitious. They're going to become repetitious. I remember my grandma, my dad's mom, when she was first getting dementia and she came to visit and she would tell the same story over and over and over again. And everyone's kind of like, oh my goodness, yep, she has some dementia happening there because she didn't remember that she had told it 17 times already. Slower to understand, and they might be losing consonants. Dexterity and hand skills are a little slower, a little less bilateral skills. Overall, body skills are okay, but they might just be a little bit slower in general. Social skills overall are going to be good, but little things like I might not be able to recognize Mary if I don't see her at church because I only know Mary as a church friend. And I might get lost in unfamiliar places, not too stressful, but just little things like getting confused. And chances are I'll be focused more on the past than I am on the present. Then we have emeralds, and emeralds are beautiful, but one of the main characteristics of an emerald is that it is flawed. So someone who's in an emerald state, they are flawed. It's part of being a natural emerald. I tend to be focused on what I want or what I need in this moment. And I might have lost some of the awareness of my own safety and my own changing abilities. I can chit chat socially, but I typically miss out on one of every words. I cannot accurately follow the meaning of conversations. I won't remember the details of our time together, but I will remember how your body language and how your tone of voice have made me feel. I may hide or misplace things and believe someone has taken them. My brain will actually make up information to fill in the blanks, which makes you think I'm lying. If you try to correct me or get angry, I'm going to become resentful and suspicious of you because it must be your fault. I'm not always rational, but I don't want to be made to feel incompetent. My brain plays tricks on me, taking me to different times and different places in my life. And when I'm struggling, I might tell you things like, I want to go home. To provide the help and assistance that I need from you, go with my flow. Use positive approach, use a partnered approach, and modify my environment for my safety. Now, here's some skills that emeralds have. So, green means go. Emeralds are green, and green means go. And emeralds are always on the go. They could be walking, they could be pacing, they could be leaving the house, they could be in the pantry, they could be making a mess, they could be sorting. This is very normal for a green one. Words are not as clear or as sharp as they used to be. My language skills that are coming out are changing, and you're going to notice this. I have an altered time frame. I'm not always where you are. I'm not in September of 2021. I'm in January of 1947. Emeralds are flawed, but not to them. They are not the problem. You are the problem. So starting a task, and then I'll start another task, and then I'll start another task, and then I'll start another task, but I won't actually ever finish any of the tasks. I'm just going to go, go, go. I do have flaws, but don't point them out to me. Things are going to be better for both of us if you don't point them out to me. I am somewhere between scuba vision and binocular vision. So I might be getting into that. I can be social or I can be task focused, but I can't do two tasks at once anymore. I repeat phrases a lot. I get stuck in social chit chat. So our conversations might be a lot like, I'm good. How are you? Is it warm out today? No, it's cold. Oh, I'm good. How are you? And they're going to go in that circle. That's all right. I feel like I'm connecting with you just by able to have that social chit chat. Tone and pitch matter a lot to me. I'm could be or definitely am missing 1 in 4 words by this point. Dexterity, so series of movements are hard for me now. So I'm more into the one movement. I'm best with my dominant side. I social skills. I really only recognize what I like and what I dislike in that exact moment without regard to your feelings. It doesn't matter what you like or what you don't like. It's kind of just about me. And time awareness, I could be caught in that time loop again. So you might not know exactly where I am. Then we have an amber. An amber is a beautiful, unique gem. So like a particle trapped in amber, someone who's in an amber gem state, they're caught in a moment of time. It may surprise you how I take in the world around me, and I may not know or see you as a whole person, but I'm going to react to you based on how you look, how you sound, how you move, how you smell, and how you respond to me. I like to do simple tasks over and over again and may need to repeatedly move, touch, smell, taste, take, tear items apart. While it might frustrate and exhaust you, it actually soothes me. I don't recognize danger. You will have to safeguard my environment. I'm intolerant to discomfort because my mouth, my hands, my feet, my genitalia are highly sensitive due to the changes going on in my nervous system. Therefore, activities like eating, taking medications, mouth care, bathing, dressing, and toileting might distress me. Please notice my reactions and stop if I'm resisting. I cannot help myself, and one or both of us could get hurt. If this happens with me, wait a few minutes, connect with me again, and then try a different approach. So ambers are caught in a moment of time. They focus on sensations. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What do I do with it? They're very sensory focused. So think of the five senses that we have and how we can use those five senses to stimulate someone in an amber state. They have no caution or safety awareness, so we need to be protective of them. They want instant gratification. If I want it now. No waiting. They're not going to be able to be persuaded to wait. What do you mean you're hungry? You just had lunch. No, just go sit down and we'll eat in like 3 hours. They're like, no, I'm hungry. I want to eat right now. They're not going to be able to wait. They're not going to believe you. Sleep patterns have changed. A lot of times here we can see that complete flip of days and nights, or they start sleeping a lot more during the day. Your body just takes a lot more energy at this point. They definitely are down to that monocular vision, so that's going to affect how they are going to do things. They are going to have repetitive language. They're going to echo your words. Instead of just saying their own, they might echo your words. They're going to take words out of context. You're going to say, let's go have a shower, and they're going to hear, let's go pick flowers, completely out of context. Dexterity, there's less fine motor. I'm more based in strength. So not a lot of this, but a lot of this. Socially, I can no longer discern between old and new friendships. Place awareness. If I'm not comfortable, I'm going to try and leave. So this is if someone's in a care facility, we're going to have exit seeking. They're going to say, take me home. Where's my husband? Can you drive me home? What time are you off work? I'm going to catch a ride with you, that sort of thing. And time awareness, very little awareness of time. It is only this exact moment that matters. Then we have the ruby. And rubies are beautiful. As the deep red of a ruby masks detail, my obvious losses make my remaining abilities harder to notice. Although my fine motor skills have become very limited, remember I'm still able to move and do simple things with my hands. You will need to anticipate, identify, and respond to all of my needs, even though I may not be aware of my needs. Plan to create a supportive environment, help with the details of care and the structure of my day. Just as a crossing guard directs traffic, you will need to guide my movements and my transitions. I can rarely stop or start on my own, and switching gears is a challenge. Move with me first. Use your body to tell me, to show me what you want me to do next, going one step at a time. Hand under hand assistance will help me to feel safe and secure and to know what to do. Danger is a part of my life due to losses in my visual skills, my chewing abilities, my balance, and my coordination. You can reduce risk to me, but you can't eliminate risk for me. I can still have moments of joy when you're able to provide me with what gives me pleasure. So skill levels of a ruby include things like red. Think ruby is red, it means stop. They've stopped being able to start anything on their own. They have stopped. Fine motor has stopped. So that includes fine motor in the eyes, in the fingers, in the mouth, in their feet. I still retain big movements though. So that's a skill I can still have. And I still have strength. They have a lot of strength. And I still have rhythm. That's the right side of my brain. I might not be able to converse with you, but I can sing "You Are My Sunshine" from beginning to end without a problem. I like deep pressure. If someone's getting very upset and they're in that ruby gem state, a deep pressure hug might really help them, get them to breathe. I like to hold stuff. I like to carry stuff. I like to have things in my hand. I might babble, but I can probably hum and sing, or maybe I'm completely silent at this point in my disease. I can still respond to social chit chat, body language, and the tone of your voice. So if you tell me to go away, I'm going to know how you made me feel. Dexterity, I use my whole hand for things. I no longer grab individual items. Body skills, I might be stable going forward, but I probably can no longer go backwards. And balance changes, my body no longer moves as a fluid unit. So I have to think about almost every step that I take. Social awareness, I like people or I don't like people. There's probably very little in between, and you might not understand what makes me not like somebody. If I'm in a care facility, there might just be someone I cannot stand. We'll never know why, but they're not going to be able to tell us any longer. Place awareness, I'm limited to my environmental awareness and patterns of motion. You might see someone who's a Ruby going up and down the hall, sort of that, pattern of motion again and again and again, but they won't recognize that they're not at home or they're not outside. Time awareness, there's almost no time awareness. It's all about this exact moment. And situation awareness, there's very little, very, very little. They're not body aware, and it's all about how I'm feeling in the moment. And then we have a pearl. Pearls are beautiful, but they're in a really ugly shell. And so pearls, so you have a pearl, well, hidden like a pearl in an oyster shell, I still have moments where I become alert and responsive. I am near the end of my life now. Moments of connection create a sense of wholeness and value between us. Use our time together not just to provide care, but to comfort and to connect with me. Help me to complete my life well. And it's important to honor my personhood when making medical decisions or making care choices. Please don't talk about me as though I'm not there. I respond best to familiar voices and gentle rhythmic movements. I am ruled by my reflexes and I startle very easily. My brain is losing its ability to control and heal my body. So be prepared to see me having difficulty breathing or swallowing. My body may no longer desire food or drink as I prepare to leave this life. Your greatest gift to me at this time is your presence and your connection. I can still hear music and I can respond to it. So for pearls, we open that ugly shell and we find inside a beautiful, beautiful gem. It's the pearl. And that's what we're looking for, is that beautiful inside part of the person who's living with dementia. So with pearls, this is the very end of the disease. We want to treat them with respect and kindness, and we want to make sure that we do connect with them. And we can connect with them primarily through touch and through rhythm. We're operating out of reflexes. Most of our systems are shut down or they are shutting down. I've now at this point probably even lost my gross motor skills. So I can't even put my arm through a sweater. You're going to have to do that for me. I'm ruled by reflexes, so I'm stuck. I'm stuck inside that shell and I'm trapped. But with the right care, that's when I can relax and that's how you can connect with me. Vision changes. I might have brief moments of gazing around. Or I might look towards sounds of interest or maybe voices that I recognize. Sometimes we hear, I went in and I was talking to mom and I swore that, she looked at me and there was that instant of connection. There probably was that instant of connection. They can still have that ability to connect with people. Language skills, they might make sounds, maybe single words related to likes or dislikes, and they might hum to music if you're playing it. They can still respond to your tone of voice and your pitch of voice. Dexterity, I can still have a strong grasp, but it's going to take me longer to let go. Right? It's going to be harder because I'm going to hold on for dear life. Or my hands might be fisted shut. That can happen too at this stage. Body skills, only forward movement. I'm very slow. I'm reflex based. Social skills, I might respond to familiar faces, voices, touches, or smells. I might not. Time awareness, you're going to have absolutely none. Place awareness, I'm going to respond only to things that comfort or discomfort me. So if I'm cold, I might call out or react. If I'm too hot, I might call out and react. Only what comforts or discomforts me. And situation awareness, I am only able to be really aware of what's going on inside of me, not generally what's going on outside of me. That is Teepa Snow's GEM model. If you're looking for more information, Google Teepa Snow, Teepa, snow, like what falls from the sky, on YouTube, and she describes a lot more about the GEM. So thank you guys so much. I've really enjoyed doing all of this. If anybody has any questions, I think we can probably open that up.
Well, thank you so much, Tricia. That was fantastic. There was a question earlier on, and if you could answer it. In this presentation, Tricia uses the term dementia in a way that I thought was Alzheimer's. Is it not true that yes, Alzheimer's is a brain that is dying and is terminal, but other types of dementia do not necessarily fall into this category, or do they? I just found this terminology confusing. I would appreciate some clarification.
I'm just looking for that question. So dementia is an umbrella term. So dementia, say it covers all forms of dementia. So Alzheimer's, I want to say it's about 60 to 80% of dementia cases are Alzheimer's, but there's a lot of other different types of dementia. There's vascular dementia, there's frontal lobe dementia, there's Lewy body dementia, and there's pseudo dementias, which are things that mimic dementia, but actually aren't. And that can be like medication issues or not delusional, having, being delusional, having depression, those sorts of things. So Alzheimer's and dementia are not all dementia is Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's isn't always, just dementia. So there's a lot of facets there. I'm not sure if I actually answered the whole question, but for most dementias, the skills that I've gone through, although some, like if they have Parkinson's and they have Lewy body dementia, things will be a little bit different.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? You are welcome to unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat box, whichever your preference is. Similar to last week, that whole waiting 7 seconds thing is really hard. So
I just have one comment or kind of a question. How much the loss of, say, sight when there's a problem, a lot of older people have macular, or various health things kind of contribute to starting dementia or just making it worse, or You talked about dementia causing vision problems, but seems like it might be a little bit of the other way around.
Well, the vision issues that I was mostly describing, you know, the binocular vision, that kind of thing, those are a result of the way the brain is changing inside the head because of dementia. There are all the other vision problems that happens just due to natural aging. You know, vision becomes a little bit more cloudy. You might be nearsighted or farsighted. That might change. You might need bifocals. You might have macular degeneration. You might need eye surgery. Those aren't necessarily indicative, are not necessarily indicative of getting dementia. Unfortunately, we can have dementia and other issues, which is just cruel.
Mhm.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I think we're a little over today, but that's all right. Lots of information. Just so you all know, I did put in the chat box that if you haven't registered, if you can email me so that I can send you the PowerPoint and also the video or any other information that Trisha's sharing with all of us. Next week, we're going to have days versus nights. Why is sleeping so hard? So that's October 1st. Ooh, October already. Starting at 1 o'clock. So I look forward to seeing you all there. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to pass them on to me. And I can share them with Trisha. Or last week, when I emailed out, I also included Trisha's email address, so you can connect with her directly if you would like as well. So thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And thanks a lot, Trisha. That was fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and everyone for coming. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.